Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Read TFOS, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called Billy Bob's Space Trucker, which is part of a series. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 31. Most species in the galaxy fit into a few categories based on their evolution. Either they were apex predators, like the Libertonians and Crusticans, and were able to develop and advance because they had the freedom to do so. Or they were prey species, like Billy Bob's favorite space hamsters, and they developed technology just to survive. Humans were messing with the classification system because they hadn't evolved as apex predators. There were lions, tigers, and bears, oh my, that could tear them to shreds. Not to mention gators, crocs, sharks, spiders, snakes, wolves, and more. Plus everything living in Australia, including the Australians. Even animals you wouldn't suspect were killers. Hippos had a greater kill count than lions each year. Those that were apex predators were good at spotting creatures that were trying not to be seen, while those that were prey tried to be good at not being seen by predators. Humans had become apex predators through technology, combining their natural endurance and hunting abilities with their tool-making skills. They'd started off with basic spears and bows and arrows and just kept going from there. Even still, when you went hunting for a tiger in a jungle armed with spears and a bow, there was a good chance you weren't coming back. Humans had to blend the techniques, being hard to see while also being good at seeing what didn't want to be seen. The concept of an ambush predator wasn't very common throughout the galaxy, but living on a death world had a habit of bringing out all manner of successful animals. What really set humans aside, however, was their interactions with each other. Not just with nature. When you took a bunch of prey who got it in their head that they were predators, stuck them on a death world with a majority of the planet being oceans that they couldn't live in, and then started tossing in a whole mess of different philosophies and limited resources, you had Earth. War evolved in many ways, leaving some aspects unchanged for centuries, while the tech and tactics shifted all the time. Anything to get a leg up on their enemies and win. Americans had started off winning their revolution by hiding in forests, and the British officers demanded they line up and advance slowly towards them. The Americans just shot them. With the advent of guns, warfare changed more rapidly than ever, and the humans, with their need to both be hidden and yet be able to spot other hidden things, just got pushed up a whole new level. Any creature that could stay in the same position for 24 human hours long before finally taking a kill shot on a target a mile away did not fit into the greater galaxy's ideas. The fact they didn't need a computer to take the shot either was impossible for any other species. It was perhaps a fluke of the universe that humans had ever evolved the part of the brain that even allowed them to compute the rough path of projectiles in flight a million years before they developed the concept of physics. Libertonians could fly, so their brains had the ability to process complex flight patterns on the go, which helped drive their intelligence as a species. But they'd never needed to throw anything in order to hunt. That's what their 4 arms, 2 legs ending in razor-sharp claws were for. And so humans were filling a very special and unique role that didn't fit anyone else. Prey who thought they were predators, or perhaps predators that were kind of crap and needed tools to become better. All of these made sure that humans were very tenacious and difficult to fight in the current war with the rest of the galaxy. But there was one final piece to the puzzle that was slowly but surely destroying enemy morale. Americans loved to feck with people, and they were very competitive. This was why, on the important junction world Karish, the Crustican defenders feared for their lives despite never having faced the humans in open battle. It had started with a missing patrol that was investigating reports of meteor impact. The planet was very arid and rocky, which did not suit the Crusticans, so they had to keep a constant supply of water to replenish their hydrating mucus. After that first patrol went missing, their water pipeline was sabotaged. Then their supply tank had been contaminated with the bodies of the missing patrol. After that, their comm equipment started getting jammed, and all they could pick up were the scratching transmissions that sounded like someone softly whispering, "We're coming for you." As the 300 remaining defenders began to freak out, their tormentors watched. Only 5 of them had been dispatched to this planet, 5 humans to occupy a planet currently held by 300 Crustacan soldiers. At the moment, they were all arrayed along the edges of a rocky canyon as they watched a Crustacan patrol in the valley below them. All the Crustacan saw was a collection of rocks and some of the scraggly bushes that survived on this planet. The humans spoke quietly among one another. 10 bucks says they start firing in every direction. 20 says one of them runs for it. Then one of the humans gave a few rocks a shove on the edge of the canyon, listening to them tumble down the sides. They weren't big enough to do any real harm on the light gravity of this planet, but the sound made the patrol screech and hiss in surprise and fear. The sounds of their energy weapons blasting the rocks around them as one scurried forward. Their leader hissed out, and the figure stopped as the patrol grouped up once more. One of the humans began to move along the edge of the canyon to a point where the ground sloped down a bit. I think today's the day. I'm going for the one with the matter slammer. He looked especially nervous after the rocks. One of the humans muttered, her voice even as she moved quietly. No way, you're fucking crazy, MJ. Stop calling me that. Why? Those are your initials, right? Just knock it off, BJ. And those are my initials. No harm there. Can I get in on this initials instead of name thing? Came a man's voice. Not a fucking chance, Barbie. It's Barbara, damn it. Fucking hate this name. So change it every time I try. You guys just tell me to shut up and look for a Ken doll to go with my convertible. There was a lot of chuckling over the comm, which more or less proved his point. Regardless, you're crazy for even thinking this will work, MJ. If I do this, will you stop calling me that? Sure, I'll call you whatever you want if you actually pull this off. Technically, all the humans had ranks on a chain of command, but these specialist units almost never followed it. When you had to torment or distract an entire hostile garrison with just 5 people, things became a little more casual amongst the specialists assigned to the task. The patrol wandered along the canyon floor while the humans watched them. The crabs lacked the instinct to know that they were being watched. Out in the oceans of their home planet, they had nothing to fear from being watched. Watching was common, but as they slowly walked past a nondescript grey rock, that rock suddenly jumped out, landing on the back of a crab holding the matter slammer tube. It hissed in terror and surprise, squeezing the trigger as a shot slammed into the wall just before him, killing the patrol in front of him. He dropped the empty tube as he tried to grab the human riding him, but his claws weren't designed to reach his back. The human woman held a hand in the air, yelling, "Yee-haw!" before the 2 surviving crabs shot at their comrade being ridden by the human, too terrified to try to spare his life. As his shield absorbed the impacts, the human pulled her sidearm free, dispatching the other 2 with a double tap into their skulls. This left the one crab that she was riding, who was bucking around, reaching back as far as he could, trying to snip and snap at her, right up until he felt the knife press against his throat. The struggling stopped as he heard a voice, "Settle down before I got you." The crab quickly stopped. He wasn't a real hunter-killer, he was just a juvenile in training. Most of the veterans were on the front line, leaving these important junctions to be defended by juveniles with veteran commanders to try and get them up to speed. But now his legs were quivering, both with the weight of the dense human and fear at what was going to happen. "Hold your claws up in the air," the juvenile complied. There was a strange snapping sound, and he felt his claws pinched shut, some sort of rubber bands holding them closed. Then he felt a knee jab his side. "Turn around, forward." The humans, looking on the canyon floor, laughed as the human raised a hand and waved from the back of the new ride. "The hell are you going to do with him? Get a saddle and a harness to use him as a mount. Walking is for suckers." "All right, MJ, you win." "I'm not MJ, damn it. I'm Mary Jane, big sister of Billy Bob, space trucker." It seemed to Billy Bob that the fact the space hamsters had survived long enough to develop spaceflight and join the galactic community was something of a cosmic joke. The reaction to being startled is to eat something so they have a good last meal. Their body shapes weren't conducive to work of any kind, and they seemed to string between napping and eating for most of their time. Yet, they were one of the main council founders, and it seemed like being first often counted for more than being better. after dispatching the Borg pirates by angrily telling them to feck off. Billy Bob was feeling pretty good. Tracking down the chief sneaky busybody wasn't too hard either. Knowing they loved to nap as much as eat, and knowing that he wasn't in the mess hall, Billy Bob simply found the ship's laundry room and found the spy hamster in a bundle of warm clothes. Then he joined up with Emily and the fluffiest big shot fancy pants diplomat to find out what was going to be the plan to get them onto Council Planet. So, Chief Sneaky Busybody, what's the plan? Billy Bob asked as they all sat in the captain's office. Supposedly, that would be Billy Bob, but he was still set up in the Longhorn, so he let the fancy pants use it.
Well, we're on our way to meet the Space Goblin's black market ship to pick up a special package we've ordered. It'll help us smuggle you onto the planet in disguise, and also we were going to disguise Emily in her power suit as a statue. It's most genius. Won't they be able to tell the statue is a fake easily? Emily asked. Well, who would bother checking a ship belonging to our most important senator?
Oh, because you guys are so incompetent, and no one would dream of you guys being spies, Billy Bob said. What? I say, Rumph, the big shot fancy pants muttered. I mean because you're such trusted members of the council. No one would doubt his loyalty. Billy Bob tried to correct himself.
Once we're in place, we'll get close to the big council meeting, which will be especially important because they're trying to drum up more support for the war against your peoples. So Emily will unveil the suppression device, and we can lead the revolt against the other founders and end the war.
So they don't have much security at these things?
Well, quite a lot of security, actually.
So what's the plan for stopping them from killing us? Billy Bob asked as the hamsters paused and looked at one another. Well, one was to assume that you two can simply dispatch them, yes? What? The fancy pants said. But won't Matriarch Annette be there? Emily asked. Oh, we're going to give her lots of food laced with sleeping agents to knock her out. What's a matriarch? Billy Bob asked and looked around. And I don't mean the definition of a word. What are we talking about here?
I keep forgetting that you were passed out when that one attacked at the museum, Emily said, and reached across the desk in the room to bring up an image on the screen from the extranet.
Jesus Christ, that's a walking bus. Fucking hell. How many claws and spiky legs does that thing have? That's going to be there? Bring me a grav tank or something. Feck, that noise. Is that to scale compared to a Libertonian?
Yes,
Emily said with a nod. Feck! How many matriarchs are there?
A few thousand, but most aren't this big. The older and more successful they are, the bigger they get over time. They have a legend about a matriarch who united them, that she was the oldest and largest of them all. In the end, she was too big to sustain herself, and her daughters ripped her apart, and each gained some aspect of her tenant, she continued.
That's a creepy-ass story.
Well, I say legend, but the matriarch was this one's great-grandmother.
It actually happened?
I mean, I don't think they gained part of her essence, but yes, they did tear her apart and eat her.
Fucking brutal, man. Hell of a Mother's Day, I'm sure. Billy Bob shook his head for a moment. If we have to deal with that thing and security and unveil the device, we need more people. 2 really isn't anywhere close enough. If we start attacking, the other officials will freak out and run away. Plus, we need someone to keep them from turning off the video feed or whatever it is they broadcast everything to the galaxy.
Oh, I didn't think of that, the chief sneaky busybody said, his little ears drooping. Well, I have help on that front. A Libertonium team is waiting in system for our rendezvous, and that should be what we need for this, Emily said with a nod.
You know, just in case this fails, I should ask if the CIA can get us a cold fusion bomb as a last resort.
The other 3 stared at Billy Bob in a mix of horror and confusion.
What?
We don't have a launch facility on this ship. Those missiles are massive. It takes specialized warships to launch those, Emily was saying as he looked between them.
You guys never made smaller ones?
You made a mini-nuclear device? The chief sneaky busybody gasped. How'd they launch it?
You don't. You rig them to a detonator. I mean, we have variable sizes. We've got a few shoulder-mounted launchers for infantry in case things get really bad. They were all staring at him in disbelief.
How do the infantry keep from getting lethal doses of radiation? Emily asked.
From what I understand, they don't. You just sort of use your sidearm to make it quick after you fire it. That's for the little guys. If we're talking about the cold fusion ones the CIA has, We'd be close enough when they went off that we wouldn't feel a thing. I assume that if you're next to a cold fusion bomb when it detonates, there's just a sort of flash, and then you evaporate. I don't know if they really tested it. I'm sure someone's figured it out at the very least."
The Xenos were all staring at him in a mixture of shock, disbelief, and horror. You use nuclear weapons so openly?"
"Well, just our first contact war. We thought we were alone, and we had no idea those space beetles wouldn't surrender until we'd wiped out their species. I think we lost that arse crab colony, but that has to do with the standard American policy to pay back civilian deaths tenfold. So we've planned it out and prepared for it, and are ready to do it. If the war on Bastion goes wrong, we're prepared to turn it into a barren, radioactive wasteland before we give it up. Not to mention every single human colony, including Earth itself."
"But that's your home planet," the fancy pants gasped out.
Well, yeah, but we only know how to play for keeps. If we can't have it, thank you, I'll take you with me. It might be the end of our species, but we'd rather take as many people with us as possible than surrender."
"You're serious, aren't you?" Emily asked as she stared at him.
"Very serious. It's been a very long time since we had allies, and since your people came to us and the Crusticans started killing innocent colonists. We knew we had to take your side. We understand what it meant,
but we didn't fight like that in the last war. We surrendered. We never reduced our other colonies into barren husks just to spite them. And if this all goes wrong and we lose, we know we'll surrender again. Surely survival is better than outright extinction."
"I'll tell you this now. To a true American, death is preferable alternative to living as slaves, but it's likely this general attitude has kept us from very truly facing that option. We might change our minds if this goes really bad, and all we have left is Earth. After all, we have all the non-Americans to think about. Probably a 50-50 chance that we take them with us. Or instead, those who are left freeze themselves and jump into space to wait it out, and then return to finish what we started."
"But what if we surrendered and said you didn't have to keep fighting for us?"
"It doesn't really work that way for us. Either this war ends with our victory, or your surrender and our extinction. But let me tell you, when you're facing a group of humans who know that it's victory or death of all humans everywhere, well, we're going to win. Besides, we have jump drives and no one else does. With control of FTL lanes in and around our system, no one can get close to us without either developing that tech or taking years to get there. And from what you guys are saying, no one has ever been crazy as us. So I doubt the rest of the galaxy has a stomach for that sort of war we're talking about. Even if we fail, give it 2 or 3 generations before the others give up."
2 or 3 generations?" Emily gasped.
"Yeah. I mean, we had a war that was like 120 years long or something. The Romans had centuries of on and off again conquest, and even America's history is filled with war. So why don't we all just forget about this fatalism and get back to the plan?"
"How can you be so calm about it, though? To talk about the death of your species so casually?"
"Hey, like I said, that's what we're prepared for. But it won't happen because we're going to win."
I can't even fathom the idea of my people fighting to the last," Emily was saying. "It's terrifying. No intelligent species we've ever encountered has preferred death to servitude."
Betty Bob shrugged at that. "Well, the galaxy hadn't met humans before."
He saw a look in her eye. It was a mix of emotions that made him smile as he thought he knew what it was.
"Fear boner."
"What?" she asked, startled a bit by what he said, as the translator lightly struggled to figure out the concept.
"It's terrifying and yet kind of arousing at the same time."
He was smiling at her as she leaned in, brushing his cheeks with the top 2 hands. "Kind of, it's just a concept that's so
hot,"
he said, his hands pulling her in close, making sure not to pull too tight. "Deadly," she purred the word out as she leaned in close. She rubbed her cheek along his. "To know that you're ready to fight to the end for me, it's thrilling."
"Hey, just being in a relationship has almost killed me several times. Why not risk death in combat instead of just hanging out? This is sort of what you were feeling after killing all those crabs at the museum."
"Yeah, but you ruined it by almost dying," she grinned a little, giving a sort of pleased chirp. His fingers slowly brushed over her wings, the feathers feeling incredibly soft and smooth to the touch. Billy Bob figured he might just figure out Libertonian anatomy after all.
when he heard the hamsters.
Predators are terrifying, the chief sneaky busybody muttered.
Billy Bob and Emily quickly pulled apart, each of them looking a little embarrassed that they'd forgotten the hamsters in the room. Billy Bob coughed into his fist for a moment, and then decided to sit down.
Should we leave?
The space hamster ventured, as both Emily and Billy Bob shook their heads. No, it's fine, it's just predator things, Billy Bob said, and Emily nodded in agreement. Anyway, the device that Emily has the blueprints of, do we just stick it into some sort of USB and upload it to their PowerPoint presentation at the event? The hamsters looked confused again, but Emily spoke up.
I have it with me, actually.
What, the device? She nodded.
I've kept it by my side this whole time.
Oh, it's tiny.
No, it's a decent size, but I keep it in a pocket dimension.
Billy Bob blinked in surprise, and the hamsters looked a little startled as well. A pocket dimension? I thought only we had the skip drives.
I assure you, humans are the only ones crazy enough to skip through the edges of reality. No, this is just a device that keeps things in another space for easy storage. We only recently created it.
She pulled from her belt a small thing that he thought looked like an ancient coin purse, only black and made out of sci-fi materials instead of whatever they used a few centuries ago. She pressed a button on the top, and a bluish light poured out at the top of the strange thing. Billy Bob had no idea why, but he immediately reached out for it as he heard Emily tell him not to. But once he touched the thing, he seemed to be drawn down into it. There was something like a strange flash of entering the skip space, but this time he was floating in blue, not like water, just blue. For some reason, he didn't need to breathe. Looking around, he saw some sort of mechanical device about the size of a washing machine, but it looked more like a lumpy mechanical turtle. Beyond it, and seeming to be very out of place, was a stuffed animal. It looked like a sort of bunny, but with 6 arms, legs, limbs. He moved his arm like he was swimming, and it sort of moved him through the blue stuff until he got to the bunny. It felt soft, but whatever was under the fur felt stronger. From very, very far away, he heard someone call his name. He looked around, and for a moment he thought he saw a giant clock drifting by. As he blinked, it was gone. Looking up, he saw Emily's shimmering face, and slowly swam up towards it. Just as his fingers seemed to touch the edge of the blue, he found himself thrown out of the tiny space purse, gasping in surprise as he was dumped onto the floor in a heap. Ow!
Billy Bob!
Emily leaned down to hug him, then proceeded to start hitting him after the brief tug.
What's wrong with you? I was told living things can't enter the pocket dimension or they'll die.
How was I supposed to know that? I just touched the damn thing.
You need to be more careful.
She paused and leaned up before gasping, pulling the stuffed animal from his hands.
You found Percy. I thought he was lost forever.
She clutched the toy to her chest, which she realized was a bit bigger than he'd first expected, perhaps 2 feet long. He sat there, mildly confused before shrugging it off. Surviving a trip to another dimension, finding a long-lost toy, all part for the course. And so ends another chapter in the adventures of Billy Bob Space Trucker. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, Jon Creighton, W.R.E, 050, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.